Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com, covers the Minnesota Vikings in beat writing like fashion. And here he is. What'd you think of the Super Bowl, and good morning?
Good morning. Yeah, it was, if people want a high-scoring game, it wasn't much of that, but it was kind of, I thought it'd be closer. I thought the Patriots would figure out some things to keep it closer, but that defense, which has been a lot of the reason the Seahawks are in this position, certainly made itself felt throughout the night. I mean, that group, when you're able to make it that hard for Drake May to work downfield in the zones where he's not able to find much time to get anything, and they're able to get pressure with four. I mean, that's a formula we've seen. I mean, Drake May's predecessor lost Super Bowls with that, where the Giants were able to get home with four and then were able to keep people back in coverage. I mean, I remember that undefeated Patriots team in 2007 lost because of that.
Justin Tuck, Osi Umenyiora, Michael Strahan.
Matthias Kiwanuka, I think.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the middle pressure. That's right.
Yep. So, I mean, we've seen that. I mean, it's not a cheat code in the NFL, but when you can do that, it's as close to a go-to unbeatable strategy as you can find. And the fact that they were able to get home as much as they were, and they threw blitzes in there too. The one that caused I guess they called it an interception in the end. I mean, that was one where they got the kid probably saying, I need to throw hot here, and he didn't, and they got him on that one. But a lot of it was being able to get home and make him have to sort things out through zones. And that defense has been elite all year, and they showed up in the biggest moment possible.
Was it one of the most boring big games you've witnessed?
I guess there's different ways to look at it. I thought some of the things they were doing defensively were interesting to watch, and just all of the different ways they're coming up with to shut this offense down.
Well, you've always been a defensive film watching snob.
Yes. It's one of those where I think the longer you look at it, and obviously Flores stuff forces you to kind of say, hey, the nuance and the intricacies of what they're doing become really fascinating to learn about. Mm-hmm. So you see a lot of that going on with Mike McDonald and his group. And it was the end of the fourth quarter. It's like, I'm thinking there's never been a shutout in the Super Bowl. This would be historic. I think the closest that's anybody's come there's been a couple of times where teams have been held to a field goal. Most recently, the Rams against said Flores defense against the Patriots, I think the year after it was here back in 2018. Mm-hmm. But yeah, going into that, you're kind of thinking, okay, maybe this may be historic if the Seahawks pitch a shutout. So you're kind of watching for that too. And I think a lot of the ways they were able to have kind of, even when the Patriots got hot towards the end, it was like, this is probably far enough out of reach and expecting them to go downfield. May had been dealing with injury stuff. The inability to push the ball downfield, and it seemed like the lack of zip he had on some of those throws. I was wondering as I was watching it how much of this is affecting him and his ability to do what he wants to do.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So May had a shoulder into the game?
I think, yeah. Was there an oblique thing too?
It was even, it was even reported the week before the official, after the title game.
Yeah.
It was reported he might have a shoulder thing. I saw something that he may have received a shot. So did he get a Toradol thing or something that day?
My man had no zip on his passes.
Nothing.
Now that I think about it.
Yeah, and that was when I'm watching that, because we've seen him throw enough. We saw him in the joint practices. Like, his arm he's got plenty of arm talent.
Yeah.
So
when he was throwing it right to Isaiah Rodgers, they were bullets.
Yes. Yes. That second day, when they were quite a bit better. But yeah, it was, there were throws, I think he was low. There were times where it's like, boy, he didn't have quite as much zip on that as I would expect him to have. So I did wonder during the game, I wonder how much he's hurt. How much he's trying to play through it.
Do you remember that easy one when they were backed up against the goal line? And I think it was a tight end that got loose behind everybody.
And
that's a 35-yarder.
Yeah, or if he probably gets caught from behind, you're right. But yeah, there was nobody behind him. It would have been a question of how quickly did they catch up and take him down.
And he overthrew him by 10 yards.
It's not Rashid Shaheed speed on that.
I like looking at Ben's face when he knows he's sitting on a good line, because he's one of the least arrogant people that I've ever met. But he knows if he's sitting on a good line, no smile, part smile, big smile, we laugh.
There we go.
That was well done.
This was a game where, into it was kind of like, the Seahawks make sense. How do you look at these games in terms of, this is a boring result in the regard that everything kind of went the way it did? The final, if you just tell me the final scoreline, I'm like, I get that. The Seahawks all around had the best roster into the thing. But the boring became intriguing to watch the Patriots doing even you can talk about fourth place schedule and all of that, to look as impotent at times as they did across, just having no answers.
Yeah.
That part was kind of intriguing to me with just how well they were shut down.
Yeah, when you see a team play at that level and when you see a team execute that efficiently, I think there is, we all want to see 35-31 kind of things, but I think when you watch a team play at that level and be able to operate that, not flawlessly, but, at a pretty high level where there's not a lot of mistakes going on and not a lot of opportunities for another team to get into it. That part of it is fascinating to watch because that, when we watch dominance, when we watch excellence in any sport, I think that's compelling. I think it's intriguing. And we saw some of that with that defense. And we've seen a lot of that all year, really, with that group. And that goes back to some of the roster building they've done, which, John Schneider, again, kind of reminds us that he's as good as there is in this business to kind of have the first run with the Legion of Boom, and then you kind of go through those years where the guys are getting old and you move on from players and it's move on from Russell Wilson, and then you get the trade and then you get all those picks and you're able to rebuild the whole thing and create another team with a different identity, but some of the same priorities because it's the same general manager drafting them. To have another defense that does that, I think it's pretty impressive to see what he's done in the helm of that front office for a long time.
The Super Bowl 60, to a certain extent, obviously higher end pressure, but it reminded me of some Vikings games that we had during the course of the year. And here's what I mean, like make the Vikings the Patriots. Mm-hmm. Their defense did every single thing it possibly could do to keep this thing as close as possible, but eventually the elasticity will stop stretching.
Yeah.
And we're doing the best we can here to keep this thing close. And the punter, by the way, is helping us too.
Yeah.
While we wait for this offense to get going.
Yeah, there was definitely some of that where it's, okay, it's been 3 and out. We got to go back out there, get another stop. Those things, you do it because you have to, but that does take a toll on a team eventually. Well, we did our part, but all right, yeah, we've got to go do it again. And trying to keep morale up during all of that. One of the things that I've come to appreciate in covering the league is keeping 53 guys on the same page, and you'll see it on the sideline. Sometimes guys are going around trying to encourage people to stay engaged, and you think some of that stuff is cliche sometimes, but when you think about just getting 53 people to believe in one thing and agree on, we're going to keep, pushing towards this and not let the doubts and let the resentments and all of the bitterness and finger pointing sink in. That is a harder thing to do than people realize, especially in those types of stressful situations. So when you have a defense that's going out there and making plays like that, only to have to go do it again, there is that natural tension of it can become very simple to say, well, I'm doing my job. What's going on the other side of the ball? Yeah. So I think when you go through that, there is a toll on the group, and seeing how people weather that is always fascinating to watch too.
The learned altruistic scribe, Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Given the common thread today is free agents, flexibility, feasting, and floundering. The question when we return, is Vikings linebacker Eric Wilson a priority free agent around these parts? We'll get into that, plus some Kirk Cousins-related conversation and much more, but first.
The Fan wants to give you a shot at some bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. This hour's keyword is gold. Use the keyword gold and enter it in at KFAN.com. Enter the keyword gold, not at the text line. You know who you are. Love you. Not at the text line. Enter it in at KFAN.com.
Welcome back. The how did you let Sam Darnold leave the building narrative nationally? It's loud.
Yep. It is.
What say you? We've brought it up and talked about it on the side or on the microphone 8 million times.
Yeah.
It's loud nationally.
It is loud, and I think it's one of those that is louder now in hindsight because of how well he played. And I think the fact that he got the contract he got was, and we talked about this on our podcast last week, he's like the 18th highest paid quarterback in the league. So
that number he got makes him just 18.
Yeah, it's gotten really expensive to sign a quarterback. So
is that based on just like his $13 million, or was it the AAV of the 30-35?
Jordan Love must be good.
Value, yeah, seriously. Yes, I think the average annual value is like 18.
Hold on.
So
one-liner alert. Go ahead.
It tells you a little bit of what the league thought of him in the sense that there was some reservations about him. The reporting over the weekend that was interesting, I thought, was the stuff with the Raiders. Did you guys see that? That Brady basically was among the people saying, no, I don't really want him. I'd rather have Geno Smith. So there was a lot of reaction to those. Yeah, seriously. The look on your face right now is...
After witnessing Darnold here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, even the Seahawks, until Geno, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, Ben. I think it was until Geno was trying to get 40 a year that even opened the door for Sam to go to Seattle. Yeah. They were trying to re-sign Geno, and Geno's like, well, I want 40 a year. And they're like, okay, best of luck in future endeavors.
Well, in those last two games of the season in 2024, I mean, people, you don't want to use two games to influence your entire belief of what a guy is going to be, but those games were, especially the Lions game where he's missing guys open. I mean, the Rams game, and there was a lot to it, but I think that affected a lot of the impression of him around the league where you're saying, can this guy answer the bell in these types of games? I think that question continued to be there until
it was answered
it this year. He certainly answered it this year.
I didn't think he was that far above average in the Super Bowl.
It was great in the NFC title game.
But he answered the question in that I didn't give the game away.
Correct.
And when guys were open, I didn't freak out so badly that I actually found them.
Yep.
I'm sure O'Connell enjoyed watching the game.
Yeah, I think the ability the ability to keep drives going, and when your defense shows up like that, to make it count for something late in the game. Yeah, that was probably something that people around here, when they're watching it, it's like, that's what we want from that position in the future.
Well, I think there are concrete things, though, that he did show growth in, specifically evading sacks, right? Mm-hmm. He sacked nearly 60 times a year ago. We're talking about the O-line, maybe here locally in regard to impacting that. But with the way that he moves, I can say pragmatically that there are some things I think that he was better at in 2025 than he was a year ago with us.
Yeah, and that's always the bet is this guy what I see now going to be what he is for the rest of his career, or is this going to change and is this guy going to improve? I think Tyler Dunn talked to Harrison Smith last week for his story, and one of the things Harry said in that story is people don't realize you do have the ability to get better, and these narratives get so static in terms of, well, this is what this guy is. People continue to improve and refine parts of their game and continue to work on what they do. So, yes, you are betting on how much is this guy going to change? How much is he going to be the commodity that I've seen? And if you think there's a reason that this guy is going to continue to get better, get more precise, more efficient, work on some of the negatives, then, you can make that bet too. But, I think a lot of that narrative has come up, and a lot of it is kind of convenient that it comes up now. But, there was, I think, certainly a belief in going with the young quarterback. That was what the Vikings wanted to do for the long term. And right now, it doesn't look like it was the right decision. We'll see what the long term of that looks like. But a lot of that has gotten pretty prevalent this week.
So PA's done this in the past, just kind of lauding what the great teams are doing at the highest of levels. And he went down a road with Brett Veach a couple of years ago, and just how he constructed what is an absolute juggernaut in the NFL. Similarly, I've just been on this John Schneider train really for the last month or so, just in regard to how he has effectively two different generations of Super Bowl winning teams that he put together. Matty Thomas. Hey, Matty T. Welcome to the
Thomas.
team. Matt Thomas.
Not the radio guy in Houston who used to be locally on an AM channel.
No, Matt Thomas was the vice president of football ops for 11 or 12 seasons, specifically under John Schneider in Seattle. How far down the road are we, or will we go in terms of, okay, can Matt Thomas come in here, not just assist with the Brzezinski operation? Can we get a little of that John Schneider magic? Did any of it rub off on Mr. Thomas as we move forward into free agency and the draft?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you get a little bit of that. I think he's coming out of retirement for this, so I think he's going to be here for a few months, and then when they get the front office settled, he probably goes back into retirement. But he is a guy that Rob Brzezinski knows quite well, and a guy that I think he came to Seattle in 2013, so the first year that they won a Super Bowl title. So he's been around a lot of this, has worked very closely with John Schneider. I'm sure there's going to be some best practices and ideas they had that carry over in terms of how they manage the cap, but probably also how they manage the front office. He and Rob Brzezinski worked together in Miami. I know they've got a good relationship. They've kind of watched each other from afar and respected the way each other do the job. So, yeah, there may be a little bit of that there. I think immediately he's here to kind of do part of Rob's typical job while Rob is in this wider role running the front office.
Is Rob grinding film?
Rob is probably grinding a little more film than he typically does. He's probably grinding a few less spreadsheets than typical. I'm sure there's still some of that has to happen.
You think Rob will walk down the hallway sometime this week and say, KO, you're not going to believe the shallow cross I just found from a receiver from the University of Nevada.
That might be a little further down the road than we expect to get, but I mean, he's been around this a long time. Mm-hmm. He's been in a lot of personnel meetings, so I would not want to sleep on Rob Brzezinski's football acumen, and Rob Brzezinski's acumen for much of anything for that matter. But
same.
I think he'll dabble in that. I don't know that he dives completely into that.
Maybe he has his binder somewhere, just 25 years of scheme ideas that he's had. It's time, fellas.
Yeah.
It's time.
It's in Cousins' briefcase. All right, 6 minutes. Finchy at 10:40. Got to fly. Is Eric Wilson a priority free agent here?
I think it'll depend on the market. I think he's probably a better fit here because of what they want him to do in this defense and the way this defense values players with experience than maybe other places. If you can get him back for a reasonable deal, I think they'll look at it, yeah.
Do you have an active do you have a working cell phone number for Derek Carr?
I do not.
Do you think you'll need one?
I would not rule anything out at this point.
You wouldn't? What about Geno Smith?
Well, I don't think I'd rule anything out, but that one doesn't do a lot for me.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. But I mean, he's been in offenses that are like this one, I guess. I think you probably try to do a little better than that, but I suppose anything has to be considered, at least for now.
How does Kirk Cousins most likely being released by Atlanta mid-March factor into the local quarterback conversation?
Well, I think it's going to be something they talk about. I remember hearing that at the Combine last year, that if there had been an opportunity to come back here, he would have thought through it. I think would have been open to it. I think the relationship between Cousins and the Vikings is still good enough that nobody's going to be bitter about how things ended. I think things ended amicably. The question I would have with it, well, I have two questions. One, how is his health? He looked better last year. Can you count on him for a long stretch if you needed him? And two, the optics of the whole thing are a little bit tricky for me, because if it would be him and J.J. McCarthy, then you have this kind of reversal of roles where Cousins left because they were wanting to draft a young quarterback and they were forthright about that. And now he's back. And the guy that's thrown more touchdown passes to Justin Jefferson than anybody else in the league is in the building again. So you have some of those attachments maybe still to him. He's not this, probably not going to be the same guy that he was a couple of years ago, just because he's older and coming off the Achilles still. And, probably he was never mobile in the first place, but that's probably even less of a factor now. But he knows how to run the offense. He knows the locker room. He knows Kevin O'Connell. I think there could be a conversation there. It's just a question of, if you put him in a room with J.J. McCarthy, is that enough? Is that going to work? I think all of those things would have to get figured out.
Do you sense they will move forward with Ivan Pace Jr.?
I would be surprised if they did. I mean, he's a RFA, and you could put the original right of first refusal tender on him, and he's undrafted, so it would be relatively cheap to bring him back, special teams, that kind of thing. I wouldn't think he's going to be a high priority, just given how his role has changed with Brian Flores.
If the learned assumption is the Minnesota Vikings will lose Jalen Nailor, how do they replace that third receiver spot?
Yeah, that is going to be a tricky one. I think there's a hope that Ty Felton maybe comes in and can be a little more of a factor than he was in year one, but that's a big jump for a guy to make in year two when he didn't really play much offensively in his rookie season. So you may have to go out and look for whether it's a veteran player or whether it's a draft pick. I think they need to continue to consider adding at that spot, because you have to make the Jordan Addison decision here in the next year or two as well. The fifth-year option decision comes this year, and then you have to figure out, are you signing him long-term? So continuing to add depth at that spot, it's never a bad investment. I think a draft pick there could make some sense.
Former Minnesota Vikings tight ends coach Brian Angelico is Pittsburgh's new offensive coordinator. What are some keys to replacing a man who had his hands all over the offense?
Yeah, he was one of those confidants for Kevin O'Connell, and he was one of those people that O'Connell would kind of consult for a last check on the game plan. I mean, you've lost a couple of those guys. Still obviously have Wes Phillips in the building. A number of other offensive staff members, Keenan McCardle, that have been here for a long time that he can kind of lean on as well. And I think Frank Smith is going to be a big piece of this that goes forward in terms of a guy that Kevin O'Connell can say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you like for this opening 15? What do you think in this red zone situation? He will be somebody that gets involved. But losing Brian Angelico, losing Grant Udinski last year, I think Grant Udinski, I certainly think his absence was felt pretty significantly in that offense, both with his work with quarterbacks and just his voice in that offensive discussion as a whole. Brian Angelico leaving, I do think, creates another void. Frank Smith probably becomes a part of how they fill that. But, I think it's a fairly significant loss that they're going to have to. I mean, it's not just getting another tight ends coach. It's who takes those voices, who becomes kind of that board of directors, so to speak, for O'Connell. Frank Smith's part of that. Wes Phillips is part of that. But I think he likes having another voice or two in there, and it's lost a couple of trusted ones over the last couple of years.
Angelico and McCarthy worked with Rodgers in Green Bay.
Yeah.
Aaron supposedly exited the 2025 season in good spirits. Does Aaron return to Pittsburgh?
It seems like there's a possibility of that happening, which is really interesting to me because it seemed like when that ended in Green Bay that they were not on great terms, and maybe absence makes the heart grow fonder, and they've both struggled a fair amount independent of one another, so maybe let's get it back together.
AFC North may be more winnable for Pittsburgh now.
Yeah.
It's like Ravens going through some stuff, Cleveland going through some stuff, Cincinnati,
maybe going through some stuff. We'll see.
But so with Rodgers, okay, I mean, maybe they're favored to win the division, maybe the second choice.
Yeah.
Without Rodgers, I'd make them favored to run third or last.
Right. I mean, who's the quarterback? You're not in
Mason
a great position
Rudolph?
to draft one. Yeah, is that going to be the answer?
Right.
I could see McCarthy saying, yeah, let's at least run it back for one more year and give it a try. It would be fascinating to see it end in that manner, but I wouldn't rule that out. It seems like there's openness to that happening.
You are a very loving, kind, and helpful individual, and a quality connoisseur of elite Manischewitz. And for all that, we love you. Thank you for stopping by.
I don't know that I know what Manischewitz is, but I'm glad I could be here.
Yeah, think Boone's Farm.
Okay,
but with a more elaborate name.
Okay,
I appreciate you, Ben.
Thanks, man.
Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Finchy, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's coming up around the corner, and about an hour from now, hockey immortality Zach Parise joins 9 to noon. Only. And joining us now is Chris Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland, twoharvest.org, and Prize Picks. And here's Finchy. That was cool last night, man. Turned the frown upside down and smashed Atlanta. What did you like about last night? And thanks as usual for helping the show.
Yeah, no, pleasure. Obviously our offense, we got back to playing with a lot more pace, a lot more purpose. Next action basketball, playing for each other, and we really needed it. We needed to find a rhythm again. We needed to play well. We've kind of been up and down over the last few weeks, as you know. So.
Good to see Jaden hitting shots last night. I mean, it's not like the recent offensive patch or lack thereof is who he is. But, I mean, he's hitting shots, blocking shots, getting to the line. Why is he Jaden McDaniels, why is he so important to your equation?
Well, I mean, certainly our best point of attack defender, actually, in many ways our best overall defender. And offensively, he can score in a variety of ways. And, you don't really have to, he's found a rhythm in a place in the offense now where you don't really have to feature him, although you can. I think that's been part of his growth. And, we need to do that more. I think at times, I have to force the ball to him more. But he's a really good playmaker. His mid-range, his paint shot, his pull-up shot's got a nice touch. His three-point shot, he's shooting at over 40%, which, puts him in the elite category in the league. So, and he gets out in transition. He's just scoring in so many different ways that I've long said he's a barometer for our offense. When our offense is good and healthy and firing on all cylinders, he's really benefiting from it and, making people pay.
That the way you described the early part of that, Coach Finch, it sounds tricky if like I were you. And here's what I mean. Because Anthony and Julius, I mean, they're fantastic offensive players and they're both multifaceted. Yeah. Yet to get somebody going offensively, they need touches. But like as a head coach, I mean, you can craft things, scheme things, isolate things, run things a certain way. But you see what I'm saying here? It's like fitting everybody in when you got a couple of guys who like having the ball a lot.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's a usage issue. There's only so much usage to go around with certain lineups, and that's why it's really important, that we play in transition and we move the ball early, and there's plenty of times I think for us to go into ISO mode, and Ant and Julius are two of the best in the league at that. What's happened though, we kind of just boiled down to going ISO so early in our offense and trying to generate everything out of that rather than trying to play in more of our free flowing concepts, our read and react game, which we know and long have known that gets everybody else involved and everyone else in touch. And when you start the game that way, it's just better because, everybody feels a part of the game right away.
With Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was here last night, I mean, he's having a wonderful, wonderful year for Atlanta, and he got paid a certain level of cash that maybe some other teams couldn't get to. But in your experience with Nickeil, I don't know if you said this to me, from in the past, or I'm thinking about it from afar. But it was tough losing him, right? Not just the player, but like the guy he is. He just seems like an affable, amiable, wonderful guy.
Yeah, it was tough losing him on lots of levels. I mean, the production and the energy that he brought to the floor, to the role that he filled, which was kind of multi-purpose. He could go in and do anything for us. Remember, I used to always refer to him as a utility infielder. He could play all the positions. But as a professional and a young professional and an unbelievable model for our young guys, because here's a guy who came into the league fairly highly drafted, struggled to find his footing, took him a little while to figure out who he really needed to be in the league. Kind of fought that for a bit, thought he could be something else. And the ironic thing is he is that now. Like, he's gone all the way through this development growth curve. But it starts by like zeroing in on a few things. It was defense, it was shooting, it was smart play. And then, you slowly grow your role from there. And I think a lot of young players make the mistake. They come in and they want everything all at once. And that's hard. It's a hard league to try to do that. And oftentimes you're coming into a team that has established pecking order and, or superstars or other guys that, are going to take away your opportunity to be, everything all at once. And then he was just a tireless worker. He's probably one of our, best gym rats. And so it was just fun to have him here. And it was really fun to watch him grow into this player. And now he's gone even further. And he's got the confidence of what he was able to kind of lay down here, the foundation of his game, carrying him now to do even more and more.
All right, so you go wire to wire against Atlanta last night, beat them like you were Secretariat, they were sham. After losing 3 of 4 before that, do you sense a tension bubble has burst, or was it never to that point?
No, I don't. In one sense, of course, it was good to get the win, but we still got. There's a lot of tension still there. I mean, every game is going to be so meaningful, and we've tripped off a few that we definitely might regret even more as the season winds down here. But we know we're a team capable of making a run and a deep run, and we got to start stacking wins. So it's probably both, good to get the win, good to play well, good to be a better version of ourselves. We just hadn't been that. But we also got to stay focused, get this one tomorrow, The break's coming at the right time for, I think, everybody in the league, but, then we'll come back out with a fresh mindset.
Chris, your assistant, Pablo Prigioni, put together, I saw this with part of your press conference. Pablo Prigioni put together a teaching tape for the guys. You credited him after the game for that playing into the win. Whatever you can share, what are some of the things they watched that came to pass last night?
Yeah, it was basically a highlight tape with all of our kind of like the way we sequence our offense, from transition to early offense to next action basketball, to set plays, to just playing with the pass, and what we talk a lot about pass pass-combinations, moving the ball along, no dribble, and then just it kind of lays out like that, and we just had to watch ourselves playing well. I think it's important when you have an offense as ours is, that people need to see that themselves playing well in it all the time, because it's pretty abstract. It's not highly patterned based. And sometimes you can lose that rhythm, and that happens when you give a lot of freedom in your offense. But, there are still structures, there's basic rules that we have to adhere to, and we've gotten away from some of that.
So your new guard, Ayo Dosunmu, I didn't get a chance to see this weekend, watched him last night. I've seen him play with the Bulls before, but he was attacking aggressively last night. Holy cow. I didn't realize how structurally strong he was either. What do you like about the new guy through two?
Yeah. Well, first of all, seems to have a great approach. Real serious, real business-like. He's going to be, as you see, I think he's going to fit in seamlessly, not only from a position of need and a skill set of need, and added depth, but just has a very complimentary game, and yet he can do things. And two-way player. I love the fact that he has a pretty simple game. It's highly repeatable. He's not trying to overcomplicate anything, flower it up. He just kind of plays straight lines, takes the right angles, shoots it when he's open, moves it on when he doesn't. He's a quick decision maker when his offense isn't there. And he can change ends in a hurry. He can turn steals and loose balls into buckets real fast, which is, in that way, he's a one-man fast break.
Well, when something like this happens, a trade, where do guys live when they are moved, and how do they get all of their stuff from one place to another?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I believe he's living probably the Four Seasons, I would imagine. That's probably where we put him. Then there's an allowance of days for everybody. I think it's a pretty healthy allowance of days. I'm not sure if it's 30 or 45 or 60. These guys get an allowance to live there. And then we have a team of people who work behind the scenes to work with the Bulls to help get everything kind of organized, or moved, cars shipped.
Jeez.
All that kind of stuff. So, he does have the benefit of the All-Star break, where he'll be able to go home, and be able to go home to Chicago, that is, and go home and be able to organize and get some stuff together. But other than that, it's mostly kind of have a team of people that are used to doing this. And there's a lot of cooperation between all the teams that are involved in any trade. So
when I was asking you that question at the end of it, I thought you were going to hit me with, what do I look like, Greg Farnham?
Yeah, back in the day, Greg Farnham would have definitely been in charge of it, but now these organizations are so large that we basically have a player services team, and it's headed up by Sydney Billups, and she does an amazing job, and she basically is like a concierge service for all the players and their families, from everything, from coming into the market to helping find whatever you need here, be housing, school, etc., to getting all the logistics lined up. And then, just like life here, just making it as best as possible. So.
Well, that job sounds like a headache. I mean, and that the headache part of it would be, oh, what do you mean I don't have side court pregame passes before the game at crypto.com? Or, no, I asked for 8. How come I only have 6? I mean, that job sounds like a clipping penalty.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot to it. There's, hosting players. We have, player lounges, player family lounges. It's a pretty fascinating job. I think it's a fun job for people because it's different every day.
Sounds awesome.
Helping players with some of their foundation stuff or their community stuff. There's lots of levels to it, and she does an amazing job for us.
Yeah, if I'm IO, I'm kind of like, well, what if I don't want people going through my stuff? I'll just wait till the All-Star break. I'll get back and do it on my own. All right, a few quickies to close here for Coach Finch, courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland, 2harvest.org, and Prize Picks. Nas and Mo Gay nearly mixed it up last night. What happened there?
Yeah, for me, the league's in a weird place when it comes to physicality. Like, there's certain physicality I think is kind of a little out of context. There's a lot of off-ball shoving and pushing and trying to jam up screens and actions, and those things are kind of go by the wayside. But those are the things that build up over the course of a game. That players get frustrated with. But then sometimes driving to the hoop, you can't like touch somebody, and so players are getting frustrated right now. We had a little dust up in the Clipper game, and then you saw, of course, what happened in the Detroit game, which is one of the more physical teams in the league. Period. So just feels like kind of there's this like misapplied physicality. I'm all for physical basketball, but it just feels like sometimes not always in the right places.
Well, so you saw the highlights from Charlotte? I mean, Jalen Duren and Mo Diabate, I mean, they go at it. Then became an all-out fracas and like a Donnybrook. I mean, that thing last night was crazy. Holy cow. So you saw it, right?
Yeah, I saw it. I mean, that's certainly not what we want. We don't want that in the league. I mean, and it was scary. It kept going on. It spilled into the crowd at one point. And I'm sure the league will be all over that today. Yeah.
So Miles Bridges then punches Duren. And, of course, Isaiah Stewart loses his mind as usual. Kind of like that night DiVincenzo made Ronald Holland cry. And Stewart wanted to fight your entire team. Remember that night?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, remember that one well. So.
Well, just lastly here, if you go back and watch it, all right, did you happen to notice Duncan Robinson? Okay, as the whole thing was going on, because he thought it was done, and then Miles Bridges gets into it with the center, and then Isaiah comes running at Miles. Well, Duncan Robinson was the best, man. When part 2 of the fight started, he rolled his eyes and walked away like, come on, guys, what the bleep? I mean, that was the look on his face. You got to see it. As a head coach, what are some keys that you have to handle when stuff like this pops up?
Well, the first thing that you have to handle when it pops up is you got to make sure none of your players leave the bench, because that's, the league has a zero tolerance policy on that for players coming in off the bench. And rightfully so. Those are people that oftentimes they escalate anything that's going on the floor. Then obviously you try to go out there, act as peacemaker, pull people apart. Admittedly, I'm a little slower to the scrum these days. I'm not worried the knee holds up the way it used to and that kind of thing. So,
wow.
But yeah, just try to separate people, be a voice of reason at that point in time.
Well,
get it calmed down as best you can. I've definitely been in and around enough of those to also know that, a lot of times people come in there and they try to do that, and then something's said or done, and then they end up just escalating it. So, there's scary moments. They can go either way for a second.
No, the knee seemed to be fine that night. You were beating Oklahoma City and you were yelling at the ref. You sure got out to mid-court pretty quickly.
I wasn't having to hold back a bunch of 260-pounders either. So,
all right, last one here. Man, you're the best. Portland here tomorrow night, then the All-Star game pause. With the break, is it fair to say absence makes the heart grow fonder, and you guys are going to come back, I don't know, like an even better, well-oiled machine?
that's the plan, and that's the hope. I think everybody, physically, of course, people are definitely in need of the break mentally. The break is huge for everybody. The break happened for us after 56 games. So, we're 15 games past the halfway point by the time you play these. And you've gone through a lot. We've talked before about what how hard sometimes the holidays are. Then you have the trade deadline stuff. That's really kind of wearing on your players.
Yeah.
The schedule, the schedule just becomes so compact and condensed, after Christmas or, that cup format has really forced a lot of games into January. So there's a lot of things that go on there, and so it comes at the right time. Now, when you make a deep playoff run, the break is basically halfway through the season, but in the regular season, there's only 26 games left when we come back.
Wow!
It's a sprint to the sprint to the finish. And when you think about it like that, you really get a sense of how long the season is before this break comes.
Hey, man, tear it up tomorrow night. And then, even of more importance, for mental clarity, physical clarity for the players and your knee, relax, chill out for a while, and I'll call you in a couple of weeks, all right?
Awesome. Thanks, PA. Take care.
Yep, appreciate you, bud. See you. Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland, 2harvest.org, and Prize Picks. Down memory lane we go around the corner. Former Minnesota Vikings safety Anthony Harris is going to be in studio chatting football, etc., 9 to noon. And that's followed by hockey immortality Zach Parise joining 9 to noon about 35 minutes from now. Don't